Welcome to Secret Story. We love each other and our friends, being unofficial aunts and uncles to several of their children. We live in a large home, much too big for the two of us. So, we host a college student from Costa Rica in our guest house. Gabriella came to us through an international college assistance program. She has lived with us and received support for 2 years. She cooks, cleans, and does other domestic work in return for our assistance. Gabriella is a beautiful young lady, 20 years old, with an incredible smile, olive skin, and a great body. We love having her in our home. She is a breath of fresh air in our busy lives. We have a wonderful life and have learned to live with our situation and thrive. As I woke up, I noticed a light in the kitchen that I had not turned on. Gabriella had been away for a few days, so Margie must have turned it on. I got up and walked into the kitchen, putting my drink glass in the sink. I saw Margie's purse and computer bag on the counter, along with a note. "Hi babe, I tried to wake you, but you were out. Come to bed and wake me, please. Love you, M." I walked up the stairs and down the hall, seeing a light glowing. As I walked into the bedroom, I saw Margie in bed. I walked into the bathroom, and Margie's clothes were scattered. I gathered them up and put them in the hamper. I turned and looked into the shower. The black she had worn today was lying on the floor. I thought that was odd. I reached in to pick them up and noticed a douche bottle in the corner. That shocked me. Then, a light went on in my sleepy, fogged mind. That thought woke me up completely. I took off my clothes and got on my knees in the shower. I looked all over the floor until I found what I had hoped not to see. Sadness and anger gripped me as I took the wet thong in my hand, squeezed out any remaining water. I picked up the douche bottle. I stood and walked out of the bathroom and down the stairs to the kitchen to get a plastic bag. I placed the evidence in the bag and sealed it. I took it into my office and locked it in my desk drawer. I walked back into the kitchen. I opened the freezer. Took out the Grey Goose vodka bottle, poured half a tumbler full, and drank it. As I poured the second glass, I heard movement behind me. I didn't turn. I drank the second glass as Margie's bare arms wrapped around me. Margie kissed my back, whispering, "Chan, why are you drinking vodka at 5 a.m.? I poured a third glass and drank it down. I stood still and said nothing. Margie asked, "Chan, what is going on?" I slowly moved her arms away, turned, and looked down at her. I am 6 feet 2 inches, and Margie is a foot shorter, so I tower over her when we are barefooted. I think I am the one that should be asking that question. My voice was stern and direct, the look in her eyes was that of confusion. "What do you mean?" I moved away from her and walked to my office. I heard her padding along behind me. I opened the drawer and took out the plastic bag. I turned, seeing her standing just inside the door. I threw the bag at her. Margie was surprised, but she caught it. She looked at me, then the bag and its contents. A look of shock appeared before she turned and ran from the room, gasping, "Oh God." I sat in my chair, thinking about what had happened in the past several hours. I had come home, and Gabriella had made a wonderful Cobb salad before she left for a few days. I had a nice bottle of wine with it. Then, I worked a little, creating after-hours trades and making money. Then I sat down to watch some mindless TV while I waited for Margie to get home so we could celebrate her success. At this point, I realized that I had not received a call from Margie as she had promised in her earlier text. That was rare. We always over-communicated, so Margie's not calling me was significant. That I had expected Margie to be home by 10 p.m., but she was late. At some point, bored by the TV, I fell asleep. I never heard her come home, and she did not wake me, which was also odd. Why would she leave me sleeping in the chair? She had never done that before. Then I wake up and wonder where Margie is. You know the rest, so FAR.as I sat thinking, I could make no sense of what Margie had done, cheated on me. Margie had to explain this before I let my brain create unsavory images I could not erase. I didn't need imaginary shit mixing up in my head that I stood and walked up the stairs. I looked in our bedroom, but no Margie, she was not in the bathroom either. I walked down the long hall to the second main suite and tried the door, and it was locked. "Margie, open the door," I said firmly and waited. "Margie, open the goddamn door." I never swore at her, so she knew I was serious that I pounded on the door as my fury rose. "Margie, open the door. Now." Finally, I heard the lock turn, but Margie did not open the door. That I turned the knob and pushed the door open. Margie was lying on the bed, balled up with the duvet pulled over her. She was not looking at me, and her little body was visibly trembling. Like freezing. Yes, the air was cold, but not from the weather, but rather from treachery and betrayal. That I walked into the room, standing at the foot of the bed. I looked at Margie hiding under the covers. At that moment, I wanted to grab her and strangle her. How could she cheat on me and up our perfect life? I came home extremely late. I had been an evil woman tonight. Before tonight, I had never done anything like what I did tonight. I lost all control over myself and allowed my new client to take advantage of me. As we celebrated, we had dinner and drank a lot of wine on top of the 3 vodka martinis I had in the bar earlier. To be clear, I cheated once a couple of years ago. I was swept off my feet by my fitness trainer. We were on and off for 2 months, then he was hurt in a fight and left town, thank God. Chan never found out about Josh, and I swore then that would never happen again, but then tonight it happened. It had all started innocently. We met in the bar for drinks, then went to Ruth Chris for a spectacular dinner. We had several bottles of wine and were having a fun time. After dinner, I suggested we go down the street a block to a new dance club and continue our party. I looked at my watch. It was a little before 10 p.m., so I could stay an hour or so. I thought about texting Chan but decided against it. That we danced and drank. As that song ended and I moved back, Mason kissed me. Then Riley James, my boss, came over and kissed me. We went back to the table and finished our drinks. I told them I had a wonderful time, but I had a husband waiting for me at home to celebrate, too, so I had to go home. That we walked back to the hotel, and the fresh air felt good. As we walked, Mason held me tight at my waist, pulling me against him. When we reached the front door, Riley ordered his car. "I need to get home so that I bid you good night." His car came, and he left. That I was about to hand my claim check to the valet when Mason said, "Margie, you can't drive home in your condition. Let's go inside and get some coffee." I agreed, and we went in, but the bar was closing. Mason said, "I have coffee in my room, so we can have a cup there." I was uncomfortable, but I needed coffee, so I agreed. In the elevator I tried to resist him. When the door opened, we held hands and ran down the hall to Mason's room. Once inside, there was no drinking coffee. Our clothes came off. Tonight, I was going to Mason, rewarding him for giving me this big deal. I go 2 times. Then I saw the clock. It was after 11:30 p.m., and I had to go. Then he was done. I ordered an Uber. "I will get my car tomorrow." I made my way home. I felt terrible. I had just cheated on my wonderful, loving husband, and for what? A lousy business deal. I began to sob and only stopped when I was standing at my front door. I was despondent. How was I ever going to tell Chan what I had done? He will hate me and divorce me. How could I have done that? I opened the door, walking in after I took off my shoes. I quietly walked through the house, hearing the sound of the TV playing in the family room. Walking to the door, I saw Chan asleep in his recliner. I decided to shower before seeing him, so I put my bags in the kitchen and scribbled a note. Then I went to our bathroom. I finished my shower and felt sober, but my guilt was growing. I crawled into bed, laying there agonizing over what I had done. How did I let this happen? I started to cry softly. There was no sleep as I lay there waiting for my husband to wake up and come to bed. I had no idea how I could confess to what I had done. I was lost. My life was over. God, I have destroyed my husband and me. I must have dozed off from fatigue but was not sleeping deeply. I heard Chan come into the room. He stopped and looked at me, my head was turned away. Chan went into the bathroom. I heard him mumble to himself when he found my clothes that I thought, oh no, my clothes was still on the shower floor, and I had not thrown the douche bottle away. If Chan finds them, he will know something has happened, and he will realize. It will be apparent to him. Chan closed the door and was in the bathroom for a long time. Then he came out. I had turned over and looked at him through slits in my eyes. Chan carrying something. I knew what it was. As soon as Chan had gone downstairs, I quietly got up and entered the bathroom. My clothes had all been put in the hamper, confirming that Chan had found them. My heart started to pound and I screamed in my head, I am caught. I went to the steps and heard Chan moving around. I waited until he was still, and I went down the stairs. I found Chan in the kitchen. He had a bottle of cold vodka he kept in the freezer. I silently watched him drink one glass, then he poured a second, downing it, and poured a third. God, Chan was getting drunk because of me. I was having a hard time breathing, and my heart was pounding that I asked him, Chan, why are you drinking vodka at 5 a.m.? He stood still and didn't answer. Then I asked him, Chan, what is going on? Already knowing the answer that I silently moved to Chan and wrapped my arms around him. I love him so much that I was worried about what would happen. Then I felt Chan moving. He put the glass down on the counter. Suddenly, fear overtook me. Chan pushed my arms away as he turned around, looking down at me. I looked up at my towering husband, my life's love, as tears began rolling down my face that he looked down at me and said sternly and directly, I think I am the one who should be asking that question. I looked up, wanting to tell him, but fear and confusion tied me in knots. I asked, what do you mean? Chan was angry and roughly pushed me away. Leaving the kitchen. I followed him. He walked to his office, and I stayed by the door. I was starting to hyperventilate. Things were coming to a head right now, and I was beginning to panic, having a tough time thinking or breathing. My whole body began to shake, and I was about to crumble to the floor. Chan turned and threw something at me hard. With a quick reaction, I managed to catch it. I was not shocked, I knew he had them, but I was appalled at how he had thrown the bag at me. I looked at Chan, his face was full of anger and disbelief. I could not stay there. How could I escape this mess I had created? I had to go. I ran from the room, gasping, oh God. I ran up the stairs. I needed clothes, but I needed to hide. Oh no, I didn't know what to do. Panic was setting in, so I ran down the hall to the guest suite, dropping the baggie in the hallway before I entered and locked the door. I crawled onto the bed and covered up under the duvet, hiding that I was shaking with fear. My breathing was shallow, and my heart was pounding so hard I thought I would have a heart attack. I deserved to die for what I did, and it would be the easy way out. I knew what lay ahead would be much worse. Then Chan was at the door, and I heard the knob turn, but the door was locked. Margie, open the door. Chan yelled through the door that I was petrified. I couldn't move. I was shaking like a leaf. Chan was going to kill me. I sobbed uncontrollably, then he yelled louder, Margie, open the door. He never swore. This was unbelievably bad that I cowered under the duvet, covering my head, praying he didn't break down the door, then came pounding on the door, and Chan screamed through the door. Margie, open the door. Now. As afraid as I was, I had to open the door and take whatever happened. I slipped out of bed, ran to the door, unlocked it, and returned to my hiding place that I was completely covered when I heard the door open. My sobbing became louder, and my body shook completely out of control. I prayed, Dear God, please let Chan kill me and put me out of my misery. I deserve to die. So do it, please. I walked into the guest suite to the end of the bed, looking at a covered ball of quivering flesh, my wife. I won't even call her name. She was covered by the duvet, sobbing loudly, almost out of control. Her breathing was rough, and the quivering had turned to uncontrollable shaking. She was in severe distress, as she should be. I am sure I know exactly what happened. Why, I cannot tell you, but it does not make a bit of sense to me. I mean, we have everything together. We love each other. We lust for each other. We have money, success, great friends and family, and an excellent plan for our future, so what could have happened tonight to make her cheat on our marriage? It was time for Margie to tell me what she had done and why. I reached over and pulled the duvet off of her shaking body, dragging it to the floor. "Oh God," she screamed, balling up tighter, shocked as she lay there naked, shaking violently now. "Woman, sit up and stop sobbing. We need to talk now. You have some serious explaining to do." I braked. She looked at me. I had never sounded so fierce to her, but it was appropriate now. I wanted her to feel fear and uncertainty like she was, maybe even worse. The look on her face was a mix of emotions, fear, sadness, shame, and others. She was a mess, and a river of tears stained her face. She knew she had created a terrible mess and had no idea what to do. "Okay, woman, do you know how badly you have up?" She looked at me. Dropping her head, nodding yes. "So, what do you have to say for yourself?" "Before you speak, I have one and only one warning. The truth is all that had better pass your lips. Any lie, and I will leave you. Do you understand?" Her eyes filled with fear as she nodded her head. "No." I roared, shocking her. "You look into my eyes when you speak, and no nod, only words. So again, I ask, do you understand?" She looked at me. "Yes, Chan, I understand." I stood there waiting for her to start. She swallowed hard, looked into my eyes, and said, "I don't know how to start. I need to tell you one thing that you already know. I love you more than my own life. What has happened has not been about that or you in any way. You are the best husband I could have ever asked for, and until tonight, we had the most perfect marriage ever." She stopped, and I could see the guilt and shame overtaking her. She knew what she had allowed to happen, risked destroying her life and our life together. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her voice was very shaky. I saw her tremble again, pulling the sheet up to cover her. I reached out and pulled the sheet off. I wanted Margie exposed as she suffered through her story. There was no mercy from me yet. I waited. She shook her head and swallowed hard. I was sure her mouth was dry and her whole body was failing. So we went to dinner, Riley, Mason Childs, and me. Laura, Riley's wife, was supposed to come, but she had to stay home with one of their sick kids. We went for drinks at Mason's hotel since Ruth Chris's restaurant was also there. We had drinks. Somehow, I had 3 martinis before dinner and was feeling good. The day had gone so well. We signed a deal worth almost $10 million over the next 3 years with the potential for more. Everyone congratulated me. Then Riley called me into his office at the end of the day, handing me an envelope. He told me, "Don't look inside until you are with Chan. You both need to enjoy it together." It was a thick envelope. "It is in my bag downstairs." After that, I finished a few things and met the other 2 for dinner at the bar. We had an enjoyable time talking and drinking. As I said, I had 3 drinks before dinner and felt no pain. We moved to the restaurant, and Riley ordered wine. During dinner, we finished off 3 bottles of red wine. I had my fair share, but they drank most of it. It was all an enjoyable conversation, firming up our business relationship. Dinner was over just before 10 p.m., and we were having such a fun time I suggested we go to the new dance club a block down the street. I could stay for an hour and then come home. I was going to text you, but I didn't. I wanted to say things, but she was open, so I let her continue. "So, we went down the street. I backed off drinking but did have a couple of gin tonics. We danced. I was their only partner, so I danced a lot. Riley and I seemed to dance the fast dances, and Mason and I danced the slow ones. Now, I wonder if they arranged that between them. I was having so much fun. It was all so innocent to me, but between the drinking, dancing, and the general excitement of the day, I was tired and reasonably drunk. I told them I had to leave to come home to you so we could celebrate. Riley paid the bill, and we returned to the hotel for our cars. As we walked, Mason had his hand on my ass, holding me against his hip, and I didn't really pay attention to it. When we arrived, Riley ordered his car, and I pulled out my claim check. But before I could give it to the valet, Mason said, "Margie, you can't drive home in this condition, you need coffee first." Wait, I just remembered something I left out. It was the last slow song in the club, and both guys were dancing with me. I was tired, so I leaned against Mason. The song ended. As I stepped back, Mason tilted my face and kissed me. Then Riley spun me around, and he kissed me, too. It was just a little peck on the lips. It felt weird, but no one said anything, and we left. Stop, stop. I stopped her there. You need some water, and I need a glass of vodka. I left her and went to the kitchen for iced water and vodka. When I came back, she had put on a robe. I should have made her take it off and make a confession. Yes. Woman, did I tell you that you could put on clothes? No, I didn't. Toss it over here. I was stern. Margie looked at me. Her eyes were full of fear again. I was not letting up the pressure. Okay, continue, I said. Margie gulped down her water and took a deep breath. She put the water on the bedside table and sat back cross-legged Indian style. She had cheated on me and was no longer my lovely wife at the time. Margie had a tough time getting started again. I knew the hard part of her night was coming now. As I said, Riley left, and Mason and I walked inside to go to the bar for coffee, but the bar was closed. Mason looked at me and said, "I have coffee in my room. Come with me. And I will make you a cup." I cannot explain what came over me. I was suddenly insanely. I have never felt anything like that before. I am sure Mason saw it in my eyes that I have no idea what came over me. It must have been the excitement and alcohol, but Mason was like the Pied Piper. I would have followed him anywhere. So, Mason led me by hand to the elevator. Once inside, the door closed, and he kissed me again. I had a heat rush. When the elevator doors opened, we practically ran to Mason's room. His door opened, and he pulled me inside. As the door closed, all thoughts of coffee were gone, and there was a long pause, and Margie looked down, unable to look at me. It was the moment of true confession. Until now, it was all just shameful flirting, but now the hard truth would come out, and what Margie and Mason had done would be revealed. My heart was beating fast. As much as I had to hear her say it, I didn't want her to. I wasn't sure how I would feel hearing her nasty confession spew from her mouth. That I gave Margie a few minutes and pressed her. Okay, spill it, tell me what happened. Margie looked up at me, tears flooding down her cheeks. I knew she was in great emotional pain. Oh God, I can't say it. It is so horrible. I am so sorry, God, please forgive me. She begged as she fell over on the bed. Margie, sit up and finish it. You have to tell me everything. I stated. Margie sat up, wiped her eyes, and took a deep breath, starting again. Oh God, what have I done? I am so sorry. I love you. I am so sorry. Margie cried out and collapsed on the bed, sobbing out of control. Well, there it was. The woman had admitted. There was no reason given, just a lot of alcohol, weakness at the time. That I knew this was not the only time Margie had cheated on me. There was another time, but then I had no proof. Margie has no idea I know about the other time, some years ago. But this time, Margie had confessed. She seemed to be painfully sorry for what she had done. I was tired of standing up and sat on the chair against the wall. Now, what to do? How did I feel now that what I knew had happened was confirmed? As I sat thinking, I was surprised after hearing her brutal cheating confession that I was not as angry as I thought I should be. The other part was, who was I to be angry at? My wife, for sure. Mason Childs, for sure. Then there was Riley, Margie's boss. I should have his head for setting Margie up like he did. So, exactly where does the real blame lie? I was watching Margie as she slowly destroyed herself with guilt and shame. She beat herself up more than I did. I thought it was odd that I was not more upset or angry than I was. I am sure it is because I am not Lily White either. It is time for me to confess. You see, I am partially to blame for what has happened and Marcy's cheating. Well, not exactly. Marcy made that decision on her own, but I put her in the position, so she had to make that decision. I am sure you are confused. Okay, so here it is. As I told you before, I am a financial advisor. Mason Childs is one of my clients. He is an extraordinarily rich man and an excellent businessman. Mason is the owner and CEO of a large manufacturing company. A year ago, when we had an investment review, he told me he needed to find a company that could provide several parts for a new product they were developing. As the discussion continued, I thought Margie's company could provide Mason's needed work. At the end of the meeting, I mentioned where Margie worked and said that they could probably help him out. Mason was interested. So, I gave him her contact information. 2 weeks later. Margie came home excited, telling me she had received a call from Mason Childs, and she was going to meet with him to talk to him about some possible business he could bring to their company. I was surprised that Mason had called her. But I was happy because it could be a lot of business, which would benefit the company, Margie, and us. The meeting was set up for next week. After meeting with Mason, Margie came home excited. They agreed to start discussions and planned to take on the new parts project in about 10 months. It would take that long to work out all the details, so Margie and Mason met many times over the next 10 months. They finally pulled it together, and yesterday, they signed the deal. During that same period, I met with Mason from time to time on his investments. He thanked me each time for putting him in touch with Margie. He always told me how wonderful it was to work with her, how attractive she was, and how nice and intelligent she was. Mason added just how lucky a man I was to have her as my wife. I was always flattered and immensely proud of Margie. As things progressed, I began to feel that Mason had an attraction to Margie, and I also thought there was a little attraction for Mason on Margie's part. I knew that Margie loved me, but I wondered how deep her interest in Mason was becoming. Over the past 2 months, I noticed that Margie and Mason were meeting frequently, and Mason seemed to gush about Margie even more now. Let me tell you a little about Mason Childs. Extraordinarily rich, like $25 million rich and growing. As I said, I am an excellent financial advisor, building a more extensive portfolio for Mason daily. He is a widow. His wife, Gloria, passed away from cancer several years ago. He is 56 years old and has 3 grown children, 2 grandchildren, and 2 dogs. He is a handsome man. A little over 6 feet tall and in excellent shape. We meet at the gym for some of my meetings, and I have seen his workout routine. It is fantastic. He has graying salt and pepper hair and green eyes. He is a well-sought-after man by women who want his money and prestige. I don't know much about his dating life, so I had no idea what would happen when I put my little test into play. I was only interested in this little test because Mason was in so many of Margie's and my conversations over the past months. Margie was Mason this and Mason that, and I didn't understand her fascination with him. He was a client, yes. He would confirm her as the well-respected sales rep that she already was. The money she would make was significant, but all that seemed normal. But the exception was the constant conversations, and I also understood that they were seeing each other once or twice a week now for lunch. I was not worried about losing Margie to Mason, but I thought their attraction was growing stronger, which was interesting. What did it mean? So, I hatched my little plan. It didn't take much, only a slight prodding of Mason and the free rein that Margie always had. We trusted each other, so I was not worried, simply curious that I met with Mason for lunch 10 days ago to discuss a new investment opportunity. During our lunch, I asked how the project was going, which opened a floodgate of praise for Margie. He said, if I wasn't careful, he might take her away. I knew I had set the hook when I told Mason, well, Mason, Margie talks about you all the time now, and you two are meeting a couple of times weekly for lunch. Are you going to start dating soon? I asked with a smile and laughed. He joined in after an odd grin that made me wonder how deep their affection was. The table was set, and dinner would be served when they celebrated after signing the deal in a week or so. I waited. The only other thing I did was to encourage Margie to dress for success. Yesterday morning, I woke up early, cooked Margie breakfast, and served it to her in bed. She was shocked when I told her, baby, I am so proud of you. You and Mason have bonded and are so close now. That is what made this deal happen. Please let yourself go and enjoy this day and the celebration tonight. After she finished, I moved the tray away and moved to her. No, we have to wait until tonight, and it will be spectacular, I promise. I smiled and left to clean up the kitchen. I had just finished when Margie came in, dressed to the nines, looking incredible. Margie pushed me away. Jesus, Chan, you are so mean. You said we had to wait. Tonight, you better take care of me good. I leaned over and whispered, tonight will be better than you can imagine. I quickly stepped back. Now you need to go, make this deal happen, and come home to me for the of your life. I waited. I lay there watching Chan, wondering what he was thinking and what he would do. I could not understand why he was not angrier at me and ready to kick me out. God, I had cheated on him, and I was confused. Margie, go take a shower and get dressed. Meet me in my office in 30 minutes. Chan got up and walked down the hall to our room. I got up, tossed the covers back on the bed, and followed Chan to the bedroom. He was in his closet dressing as I slipped into the bathroom. That I showered again, making sure I was completely clean. I had no idea what would happen next, but I wanted to be ready, whatever it was. I dressed and was down in the office when Chan came in. He had 2 glasses of iced tea and handed me one. He sat opposite me and smiled. I was riveted to him, expecting the worst when he started to talk. Margie, thank you for being so honest about what happened last night. I do have a few questions for you. So please be as honest as you have been so far. The first question is, do you love Mason Childs or me more? Chan's words shocked me. What the hell did he ask me? How could he think that or ask me that? Chan, how can you even think that? I love you, and only you. You are my whole life. Well, what about Mason? You have been having lunch with him twice a week for months, so it is a fair question. What is your feeling for Mason? I know what his feelings are for you. Chan was demanding with his question. Chan was right. I had been to lunch with Mason for several months, and we had been out to dinner twice. Most of the times that we were together, I had never told Chan about it. I suppose that Mason has told Chan about our lunch times together but not the dinners. Other than last night, there was only one additional time when Mason and I were the slightest bit romantic. It was 2 weeks ago, and we had an early dinner at his private club. We were in a private dining room, and it was exquisite. The food and wine were delicious. The conversation became more personal as he told me about his life and the loss of his wife. Mason had never talked about her before. He told me he was finally dealing with her death and was now ready to date again. I was happy for him but had no idea where he was going with his talk until he reached across the table, took my hand, and asked me if we could date. That I was shocked. I had grown so close to Mason while we worked out our business dealings. He was an attractive man and charming. But I felt no love for him. I gently pulled my hand away, and with a small smile, I blushed. Mason, I am married, and you do business with my husband. There is no way. I love my husband and could not do that to him. I like you as a business partner and friend, but we cannot date. Thousands of beautiful women would love to date you, so please, you need to look elsewhere. I saw sadness in his eyes. I knew he knew the chances were slim. And I would agree. We didn't discuss it again, and we left shortly afterward. As his car dropped me back at my office, I moved to him and kissed him seriously. It was the least I could do. Thank you for a wonderful dinner, Mason. I will talk with you tomorrow. I got out, and his car drove off. That I sat in my car, thinking about what had happened. Should I tell Chan or just let it go? I decided it was best to let it pass. After what happened last night, I knew I was wrong and should have told Chan. Margie, how did you like it? Do you want to him again? I asked seriously. Margie looked at me with an odd look on her face. Chan, why are you asking me these questions? I have already confessed and told you I love you. And what I did was wrong. I only love you, only you. No, I do not want to do anything with Mason outside of business ever again. Okay, I accept that. Then what about Riley? I said. What? I don't know what that kiss was all about. No, he is my boss, and it will never be discussed again. Margie said, flustered at my questions. Okay, I accept that as well. So, Margie, how do we resolve this? You have cheated on me, broken our marriage vows, and will continue working with your cheating partner, so how am I supposed to trust you? I asked firmly. Tell me, Margie, other than all the lunches and last night, have you and Mason ever been out together? I asked that. Margie's look changed, so I know I hit pay dirt. The look gave her away. I see from the distressed look on your face that the answer is yes. There is more to this than just lunch and last night. I suspect a budding relationship is growing between you two, I said firmly. Margie dove off the sofa on her knees in front of me. Chan, you have to believe me. I want only you. Last night was a horrible mistake. I love you and only you. Please, the 2 other times were dinner. One was 2 weeks ago, and Mason asked me to date him. I refused, and that was the end of it. I did kiss him as he dropped me off as an ending. I should have told you, but I thought it was over, and I had handled it. Then, last night, it happened, and I cannot explain what happened. Drunk, horny all day, and the opportunity is all I can say. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I promise it will never happen again. I had heard it all now and knew what I had done created the environment for them to cheat, and I was partially responsible. That was my secret, forever. Okay, I have heard it all now. Is there anything else I need to know? I asked. Oh God, no, nothing. Margie sighed. Okay, then here is my decision. I will not divorce you. I will continue to love you. I will continue to work with Mason Childs, helping him become richer so I earn more money. You will continue to work with Mason Childs, but you will never go to another lunch with him alone. You will never go to dinner with him alone. You will never cheat again with Mason, Riley, or anyone else. Do you understand? I will speak to Riley concerning your kiss, and I will talk to Mason about last night. If one word of what happens gets out, I will threaten them with exposure. I will have a lawsuit naming both of them in conspiring. I will never file it unless they push back on me. Margie, I don't want to do this, but you have given me no choice. You will sign a postnuptial agreement that will be very harsh on you if you ever cheat on me again. You will leave this marriage with what you came in with and nothing more. Margie, I love you, but now that I know that you are an easy target, your nights out alone or with the girls will cease for 6 months. Your drinking will be limited to 2 glasses of wine per night. It would be best to learn to remain in control, or these privileges will be denied forever. This might seem like I am being harsh, but the alternative is a messy divorce that neither of us wants. All of these rules will be written, and you and I will sign them. Do you understand? Margie looked up at me. Tears were rolling off her cheeks. Chan, I love you and will agree to anything you want. I am so sorry for cheating and violating our vows, and it will never happen again. I reached down and pulled Margie into my lap, holding her. We sat like that for a few minutes. Then I whispered to her, I believe I still owe you the of your life. And smiled. Margie scrambled off my lap, pulling me up and running ahead. As she ran ahead, I took out my phone and texted two people.my text, thank you, men. I will talk to both of you next week. Mason, you owe me a lot, and I will definitely collect it. I think maybe a trip on your private jet to anywhere you want to pay for 2 weeks might be appropriate. Oh, thank God, I survived again. But this time was the last time. I would never cheat again. That I ran to the bedroom, losing my clothes along the way. That didn't happen, but today it will. That I heard him come through the door. Chan stopped dead. I looked back at him. My, look what we have here, he said. A suite waiting for me. What should I do? Gee, I can't make up my mind. I think all of the above is appropriate. He owned me forever now. Epilogue. I know, you are all scratching your heads, wondering what has just happened and why did it happen. Well, let me clear things up for you. About 5 years ago, and well before Mason entered the picture, there was a fitness instructor named Josh. He was 28, blonde, stud with a hard body. I had seen it in the locker room shower. Very impressive. I couldn't get it up again until I met with Josh one evening. A friend and I rocked his world, but not in a good way. The news said Josh Miller, a personal trainer, had been mugged and was hurt badly. Margie saw the broadcast with me. He is my trainer. Really? That is too bad. I hope he will be okay. I said, with her trainer/love out of the business, I cancelled her gym membership. The day Josh left the hospital after 5 days of recovery, I met him at his apartment and helped him pack everything he owned into his truck. I escorted him to the state line. No one ever saw him again during our meeting that night. Bef or his accident, Josh readily confessed to Margie for 2 months. I could never get enough details to catch her or confront her. That is why I played this game with her. Now I have her locked down with a postnuptial agreement and the fear of God that I would divorce her. It all worked out as I had hoped, and I am happy now. Our beautiful life can move on. The following 2 months began with trying to make our first baby. Our friends thought we no longer liked them because they saw so little of us. As for Mason, he paid for a beautiful 2-week trip to the Maldives Islands on his Gulfstream 5. I am sure that is where our twins were created. We hardly left the bed or deck or hot tub, anywhere and everywhere. 9 months later, we had Stell and Michael, followed 2 years later by Marion, and Bill came along 3 years later. Our life was wonderful. So that is my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. No part of this story can be reproduced in any form or by any electronic or mechanical means without written permission from the author. All characters are fictitious, and any similarity to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental unless otherwise stated.